Hey, welcome to Mineral Talks Live, the weekly live webinar that brings you in-depth and in-person interviews with the mineral people from around the world. Mineral Talks Live is brought to you by a joint effort among the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, and BlueCap Productions. Tune in every Wednesday and stay connected to your mineral world. Now, broadcasting live from beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii, the land of aloha, ukuleles, and shakas, this is Mineral Talks Live. Welcome and hello to another great episode of Mineral Talks Live. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Brian Swoboda, president of BlueCap Productions. I'm looking forward to another great interview for the mineral collecting world. Now, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, Mineral Talks Live is a new weekly webinar put on by myself representing BlueCap Productions, Dr. Raquel Alonso Perez representing the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, and Dr. Eloise Gaillou representing the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals. Sorry, it's always hard for me to get that, but it's otherwise known as SMMP. Now, this program came about as a result of a few conversations Raquel, Eloise, and I had regarding COVID-19 and how it was affecting our mineral collecting community. A combination of the worldwide shelter-in-place orders, the ban on traveling, and the cancellation of mineral shows was really taking its toll on mineral collectors. And we felt there might be a need for a new way for the mineral community to connect online. Raquel and Eloise pushed for a series of live Zoom interviews, and, well, after about a week, they convinced me, so here we are. Now, as for the format of the show, I'll be conducting the interviews one-on-one with our guests, while Raquel and Eloise will be doing the serious behind-the-scenes work that actually makes the show possible. In your Zoom window, there are going to be two ways that you can interact with the panelists and with each other. The chat feature, which you can find down here somewhere at the bottom of your Zoom window, will allow you to interact with everyone who's participating and watching this show. While our guests and myself have access to those chat windows, most likely we will not be looking at those as we're going to be focused on the conversation that we're having. However, both Raquel and Eloise will be participating in those chats, so look for their comments along with all of yours. Also at the bottom of your Zoom window is a Q&A function that will allow you to type in questions that you'd like our guests or myself to answer. You can type in your questions there, and at the end of the interview, Raquel and Eloise will chime in and ask those questions of myself or the guest, and we can go and answer those for you. Now, we're going to try to keep the show to about 30 minutes and then reserve another 10 or 15 minutes at the very end for the Q&A session. We may go a little bit long, so if you have to sign out early, we understand. We are recording this program, and we will be releasing it later on the BlueCap Productions YouTube channel, so if you miss anything, you can always come back later and watch it. So right now, let's take a look. We got a whole bunch of people signing in. I see there's Peter McGaugh from Tucson. Hi there, Peter. We got, let's see, who else? We got John Montgomery out there. We got people coming in from Ukraine. Wow, fantastic. More people from Arizona. There's Chris Whitney Smith. Hey there. We got people coming in from all over. We got Brian Cook, I see. He's out in Tucson, it looks like. 102 degrees. Whew, ow, that hurts. So, again, thank you all for joining us, and why don't we get started? I want to introduce our guest of the day, coming to us live from Dallas, Texas, a person that you pretty much all know, needs really no introduction, Mr. Rob Lavinsky. Rob, how you doing, buddy?
Thanks, Brian.
Hey, how are you, man?
Are we on?
How's the weather out in Texas right now?
Toasty outside, but we have air conditioning. So the good thing is, unlike you, I actually got a haircut for this interview. So I look clean and nice.
This is the new thing, so, man.
Hello,
it's the COVID-19 do.
Welcome, Brian. So we're trying to root me in place. I thought about super gluing my shoes to the floor. So if I wander off, I'm going to apologize in advance.
Okay, so nail guns are not optional. We can't nail gun your feet to the ground.
Yeah. Okay, so is this a good spot? Are we good?
Yeah, you look fantastic.
All right.
Hey, so Rob,
hello,
everybody knows you for all the work that you do, and you are so visible as the Arkenstone and as IROX. One thing not a lot of people might know is your background in mineral collecting. How did you get started in mineral collecting?
Well, that's a funny story. I didn't start mineral collecting. I started in fossil collecting because, frankly, that's a lot more normal for kids to like dinosaurs and fossils and animals. And I started collecting fossils by the side of the road when I was 9 or 10 in Ohio. Long story short, I ended up running into the Columbus, Ohio Rock and Mineral Society. And when I went to the first show, I had the immediate reaction that minerals are a lot more beautiful than fossils. So I started collecting minerals when I was 12-ish, and I was just lucky. I had good mentors. It all comes back to that. We didn't have the internet, but we had people, in the society who'd collected for decades, who took me under their wing, and we had a library. I saw my first Min records when I was 12, and read them all. And I actually have to say, one of my most important experiences at that age, before I was 13, was I read Pete Bancroft's book, Gem and Crystal Treasures, which had also photos of your father in it.
Absolutely.
And so, it just leapt off from there.
Well, now, there is a huge jump from being a mineral collector and a mineral lover into becoming a full-time dealer. What was the catalyst for you that made that jump?
Well, there's a long story, but short version, I was trying to buy minerals from lawn mowing money, snow shoveling money. Believe it or not, people actually trusted me with their offspring, and I was a babysitter when I was a teenager.
Oh my God.
I was doing math and chemistry tutoring. But you can't make incremental couple dollars an hour mowing lawns and tutoring chemistry and buy a good rock. So I started wheeling and dealing minerals to pay for my own collection. But I think a lot of us did. A lot of the dealers today who are dealers started that way. And I think a lot of collectors start doing that to cull down your collection as you mature and change your tastes. Anyway, so by the time I went to college, I had a side business doing minerals. That's what I did in the summers. And I actually had a high truancy rate in high school because I also went out collecting minerals in the afternoons when I should have been in school. But that's okay. I got into college. And then I realized I had to pay for college. So I ramped up the mineral business, 91, 92 really, in part to pay for my tuition to school. And by luck, just to give you a more specific detail here, so I spoke conversational Russian coming out of high school. We had Russian class. It seemed interesting, and I took it.
Wow.
And by dumb luck, the Houston Museum of Natural Science was across the street from my university. And the curators who were sent over with the Fabergé egg exhibit didn't speak hardly any English. And I knew Joel Barch, and he knew I spoke Russian. So I used to go across the street at lunch, between classes and help translate and help them generate living expenses because they were sent over here. I mean, it was early days. This was, 92. They didn't have money for food and clothes, so the museum sent them rocks to sell. And so by doing business with the Fersman Museum of Moscow, that ramped up my existing business. I had email chains, and I was just selling things by email in the early days. And that was all before websites. When websites came up, I went down to the campus bookstore in 1994. And I remember this. I bought the first edition of HTML for Dummies and put up one of the early websites. So things took off.
So now, Rob, your time in Houston, was that before or after your time in California? I always thought you came to Dallas straight from La Jolla.
Well, I did. So I went to undergrad. I got a legitimate degree because mineral dealing is not a career. My mother was horrified that it somehow might become a career. So I got an undergraduate degree in 95 at Rice University. So I'm a biochemist by training there. And then I went for my doctorate degree in San Diego. So I was there for 7 years afterwards. But during that time, the mineral business built up on the web. And I had no life. I had nothing better to do except the lab and the minerals. And, of course, because I was in a laboratory all the time, we had free internet, the T1 line, fast internet when it was hard to get. And so from 95 to 2000 plus, I had the internet and just grew rapidly. So at some point, you have to just look at what you love to do, right? Versus, well, I also love the lab, but versus your other choices and say, I can't say what I want to say with the
Family show
F-word
here,
online.
Rob.
But you have to say, oh, to heck with it, and just jump in. So in 2001, I went full time on the minerals.
That is awesome. Now, right now, you're standing in your new gallery that you premiered to the world in 2018 during the Dallas Symposium, and I actually shot a walkthrough of that with Kevin. And so you have your kind of bricks and mortar store there. By appointment only, I should point out, so the public can come and visit you, but they need to make an appointment. You also have a very strong, as you were saying earlier, internet presence. You started with that, but iRocks.com is you have a very strong presence, and you have constant auctions going on. You also spend a lot of time in China. So let me ask you, how has the COVID-19 situation really affected your business, seeing how you got your fingers in all those different areas?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So, when I started up coming on the internet, I was kind of a nobody, and I came up just sort of slowly and gradually, but consistently over the years. So I think I'm probably the only person who started very small on the net and then crossed over to let's say, the major dealer status, including having these booths at shows. In a weird way, it also drove me to need this big home base. So the gallery here isn't just a gallery, it's a base. For the work we do on the internet, which is, frankly, still growing even during these times. And it lets me have a different business style than the world that I grew up in, where you had to go to shows and rely on shows. And so I really never have. So you're asking how things have changed today. Honestly, for the core of my business, it's not a lot of change. I can't travel, people can't visit here, but ever since the 90s, the bulk of my business has been online anyways. And I can tell you, it's really heartening for those of you watching. There's a lot of new people who are using their time at home to learn about good minerals. They're finding us, they're finding other dealers. I think there's a lot of people coming in through MinDat and MinFind. And I see the base of the hobby is growing now. I really don't see a big dip in what I call the core of our community. There's new people coming in every week and people learning and growing. And I think when this is over, they will come to those shows that are still surviving. So the hobby as a whole, I think, is doing okay. And I saw the same thing after 2008, Brian.
Well, I think it's especially heartening to see things like what the Young Mineral Collector Group is doing.
Yeah.
They are a Facebook group of mineral enthusiasts, global mineral enthusiasts, who have to be under 40 years old. And they just did an incredible exhibition at this year's Tucson show. So I know that last year they came to your symposium, and I believe they're going to continue to be a major presence. And so they love to say, the internet, the mineral world is not dying. We're here and we're coming for your minerals.
Well, I've heard that, but yeah, I think they started with a few people and they're over 1,000 now. So I guess before I answer the China part of your question or more about my business, I think it's really important to just get that out there. I think our hobby is organically growing. I think it has already turned into an art class or an asset class in formal terms. And it's still in transition, and it's still a great time for people to come in. So the fact that I'm seeing new people not only come in, but grow and learn and, read on the internet, read on the websites, watch shows like this, it's really encouraging, even in these times. You asked how it affected my business. Obviously, without traveling, it affects the top end, at the top price point of minerals more than others, things that you really have to sort of get on a plane with a duffel bag and put in front of people. But what I think a lot of people don't take into account is that also affects my buying. With me being grounded, I can't do the almost weekly trips that I'm used to doing. I will go to people's homes and look at minerals that have been there for 50 years and make an offer or suggest someone who might want it and try and broker it. So the high end of our market is not gone. It's just much more difficult and on hiatus in those price ranges. And then to tie to China, it just makes sourcing very difficult. I think for a lot of the dealers, we're used to being able to go somewhere, look at the minerals in person, and make a buying decision. For me, I used to go to China almost monthly for the last 2 years, and it's hard not to be there. I'm working still with my staff in China. I'm buying almost every day something in China, but from video. And frankly, it's just not as fun. I guess that's the bottom line.
I totally hear you. With travel being gone, it totally changes everything. But let me do a follow-up question on the China thing. I think you probably remember that right before Tucson this year, you and I were having a little text conversation about COVID-19 and about this place called Wuhan. Back
Oh yeah,
then,
and you thought I was paranoid. January 13th, I told you I was scared about this.
we
You thought I
totally
was
agreed that something major was coming. But my point is, Wuhan, we all know about it now because it's the birthplace of COVID-19, but you have a totally different experience with Wuhan. That is kind of one of your travel hubs, and so you see Wuhan in a much different perspective than the rest of us do. Share with us, if you will, kind of some of that perspective so that we can understand Wuhan a little bit better.
Okay, so for those who aren't used to seeing Chinese cities in person, you just have to think it's really, 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 really big. And when you fly into New York afterwards, New York looks like a little suburb. And Wuhan is actually more than just the old cities that give the names Wu and Han to it. It's actually a combination of 3 cities. So it's closer to 20 million people in the metro area than the 11 million that's been reported in the West. It is huge. And it's maybe their biggest university town. Excuse me. So it's a really educated place, really up and coming, a lot of smart people, and I think there's almost 200 universities there. So it's a center of education and commerce. We actually tried to do our inaugural start of what would be a Dallas Symposium-style event in Wuhan. We did the first test year 2 years ago, and we were scheduled to do that again this year. So there's there's many universities, but there's the University of Geology there. There's a Museum of Geology in which I was able to participate in an exhibition with Guanghua Liu. A lot of you know Dr. Liu was the author of the first Minerals of China book, the big, huge, thick book with the blue cover from 2005, maybe. And so he is based in Wuhan and has a huge exhibition in the museum to this day of China minerals. So beyond just the educational aspect and my hope to do a symposium there, you need to understand that Wuhan is the gateway to the central mining district of like Old South China. This is the source of the Bronze Age in China. So deep history. And I guess just to go on with that, if you go to Wuhan, that is the gateway then to the train service to Daya and Huangshi. So Huangshi's, you'll see it labeled as Yellowstone. That's where they have a show. And so there's iron mines here, and there's in Daya, and between them there's copper mines and silicon mines in the Huangshi area. So it's all very famous for mineral collectors. The only way to get there and to source on the ground is through Wuhan.
Now, Rob, Bronze Age was what, 3,500 years ago, about that?
Yeah.
So they've been mining in that area for the last 3,500 years?
Yep. So this is the thing. It's one of the last areas of China to come to our attention as mineral collectors. It's one of my favorite places to travel because I really helped open it up to dealing in specimens. I started to go to the Wuhan area about a decade ago. And actually, just to show you, this is, for example, this is the mayor of the city of Daya coming to talk to me about this. And we're working with them on a project to share this tremendous history of Bronze Age China, the cultural and metallurgical history of this copper mining district. We want to share that with the Western world in the context of the beautiful minerals from that area. And so, for example, we had a little display for you ready to go. This is a malachite from Tonglushan. And Tonglushan, now that I learned some Chinese, it actually makes sense. It means green copper mountain. Wow. In the same way that Sumeb started with Green Hill, right, in the 1800s, Tonglushan started 3,500 years ago, and it has been continuously mined for copper.
Isn't that a fertility doll?
I'm sorry?
Isn't that a fertility doll?
This is a stalactite, my dear.
Okay, all right.
You're just
the connection confused. Was a little bit pixelated.
Mm-hmm. So I'll show you a more normal malachite. So this is actually from the Tonglushan mine proper. And what happened was I went to one of these conferences, and this is funny. It's you go to these academic conferences in China, and I'm the white guy in the room. There was no translation, and it was a really long day. And at some point, I bailed out the back door and asked my friend if there was anywhere we could go and look at rocks. This was about a decade ago. And he took me to this museum that the government of China built in the 60s in Tonglushan as a tribute to the Bronze Age history. It's absolutely unbelievable. And it shows how they discovered copper deposits, not using metallurgy, but using botany.
Wow.
And so I'm sitting there I'm in awe with this museum. And I can give you pictures to share later about how they used botany to find the metal deposits for the Bronze Age in China.
That's incredible.
And we're walking through the museum, and there's a showcase, maybe that wide, with a malachite this big in it. And my first comment is, why do they have an African malachite sitting here in this dusty museum? And they had told me, no, that was pulled from the mine. I said, what mine? I didn't know it was still active. No one knew this 10 years ago. This is the mine. We're on it. So the museum complex is actually above this deep underground mine. And yes, 3,500 years of basically continuous operation. And you can actually reach down in the dirt. He told me to just stop and dig. So just with your hands, you can reach down in the dirt at about 6 to 8 inches down. You can find Bronze Age slag from the copper processing. And this mine today is still producing specimens, but they weren't coming to the market. So I think I was the first Westerner probably to be in these mining towns, have dinner with the miners, and try and teach them about what we want, about aesthetics and minerals. I will show you. These then came out recently. This is another thing from that area. Everyone's familiar with apophyllite from India.
Right.
But these are apophyllites from this Daya Huangshi district.
Those are fantastic. I think we filmed some of those at What's Hot in Tucson this year.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob, could you hold up that? Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, this is also the same area where the enesites came from.
Yeah.
So most people are familiar with these. So these came out when this silicon mine opened. It's producing, it turns out, I didn't know till I was actually underground and got to see it with Stuart Mills. And he identified the ore as wollastonite. And it's solid veins of wollastonite. They're mining for silicon, for computer chips. So the inosite and the apophyllite are little pockets, as are the calcites, that are right at the contact of the wollastonite veins. It's about 200 to 300 meters underground. And so I was just there last year, underground in this mine, where they found these, 15 years ago. And then they had a new pocket in pillar mining recently.
Fantastic, man. Now, with travel being pretty much non-existent, and you're already whetting our appetite with some of the mineral specimens you're sharing, what's new with you? What are you getting in right now? You said that you were getting some new things. What can you share with us?
Well, the problem is production is down worldwide. So mining is down now. Commodities are down. So there's a lot less coming out of the ground, even in China. Well, particularly China, because they were hit before us, right? So there's still things coming out, but it's little bits, little pockets, no huge production from hardly anywhere. Mm-hmm. I will show you one more thing from Hubei province, these turquoises, and then I can share something else with you. So people have seen fake jewelry, and real sculptures and things. This is Chinese turquoise. Mm. This is also from a few hours north of Wuhan. You see the matrix on the bottom. So
can you bring that closer to the camera?
Yeah. Yeah. Does that work?
Yeah. Good.
I can't see you, so I'm trying my best. So one of the things I've been trying to do in China is teach them that some of this rock and lapidary production has specimen value. So I'll show you a few specimens from there. So this is a turquoise superapatite from just north of Wuhan, from these turquoise producing zones. There's actually minerals up there that have not made it to our market.
Wow.
So this is the biggest one I've yet seen. And then I'll show you.
It looks like my son's tooth that we just had pulled out.
So, this is a specimen of natural turquoise. These are coming out now.
Jesus,
they've been coming out, but they were destroyed. So they take this and they carve it up and break it into pieces and mix it with glue and plastic to make jewelry.
I thought that was a copper sitting in the back there.
Oh, that's a turquoise. Now this is before it's polished to show you the natural shape. and then I'll give them a light buffing to shine it up. But that's one of the newer things from China to reach our market, but it's not necessarily newly found.
That's really cool.
So in other parts of the world, honestly, it's just there's not a lot of mining. There's been things coming out of Brazil. If you go to my website, you will see some of the new tourmalines that have come out of Brazil near Governador Valadares. And then also I had the good luck to start negotiating on a collection last year that we saw in Brazil. So I actually have this incoming Brazil collection now that we'll start posting on our website, and it'll keep me busy. But it's old finds, not a lot of new.
Interesting. You have any Brazilian tourmalines you can share with us?
As luck would have it, let's see. Tourmaline specifically?
Well, whatever you got.
Is that in your frame of sight? So this is a Golconda. These are from this famous find of what I think was around 1960. I'd have to look it up in the Bancroft book. So it's just a collection of old Brazilian classics. There's a Golconda. There's a Jonas.
Wow. Those are always classics. Fantastic. Great color on that.
This is, see if that shows a fantastic thumbnail.
Oh, that's fantastic. Look how gemmy that is.
Yeah. There's just, I have a flat in front of me here. This is amazing because it has no color for a goshenite.
Great.
So, you know, I guess to answer your question, I'm still sourcing in China, Brian, but just the production's down. I think we're going to have a lot less minerals hit the market this year. And so in Brazil, my tack was, instead of trying to play a game I can't play, to buy an older collection.
Yeah, right on, right on.
So, you know, and that's been my thing since the beginning. You know the truth. I've known you a long time. I didn't even really travel internationally till the early 2000s. I was very nervous about getting on the plane in the old days. Now I'll go to China on a, you know, one-day notice, but I never used to go to the sources up till my work in China really started. And, you know, to tell you the truth, no one knows when this will come back worldwide, but I plan to be back in China before the end of the year.
Now, when you go to China, you were talking earlier about getting the chance to go down in the mines. How often do you get to visit the mines? And is China the only place that you visit mines, or are there other places worldwide?
So, well, these days I don't have a lot of free time, so you have to target where you're going to go.
Right.
And I long ago made the decision. There's so many people going to Brazil. Africa's very far away, Australia. You just can't go everywhere. So because I'm in China a lot, by default, that's where I end up getting the chances to go underground. I've been all over the mines there, especially in Hunan, Hubei, and now we're based in Guilin in the south, which is just a few hours from the pyromorphite mine. I haven't made it down yet, but probably on the next trip. I was very fortunate to get to go with Casey Pandy to some of the quarries in India and see things in the ground in India. And Federico Pezzata took me into one of his fluorite mines in Italy with my kids.
Cool.
So that was maybe one of the best trips. And if anyone's watching here who's stuck in Europe and you get the chance, go to the pyrite mine near to Zaragoza and get a chance to see where those cubic pyrites come from in person. It's amazing. And any of these, Brian, you know, you're underground and you're seeing where these things come out. It's crazy that we get anything at all. So it's really humbling, you know, to get to see in person where they come out of.
Absolutely. I grew up underground at the mines in Pala district, so I totally understand that. And you're also spending a lot of time bringing people into the Dallas Symposium that do some great jobs of taking us virtually to those different mines and showing us around, which kind of makes me wonder what's going on with the Dallas Symposium. 2 weeks from now would have normally been the St. Marie show, and we all know that that was canceled. Last week, the Denver Mart show and the Denver Fine Mineral show were canceled. Munich is still kind of up in the air. So your Dallas Symposium is always right around August. What's going to happen with the Dallas Symposium? Why don't you share that with everybody?
Let me just say first, you're right about the symposium in what you said. I try and get speakers who will take people into the mines, into the ground, and show you how difficult it is to get this stuff. So if people look online, Monica has posted the last few years, and we will have another few years coming soon, hopefully. You can see past talks by a various group of speakers at the symposium. I want to draw attention to, in particular, Thomas Nagin had a series on PBS public television, and that's called Mineral Explorers. I was part of that. You'll see me in a few of those episodes as well. And it's a really good look at some of these mines. So we thought a lot about this, Brian. And actually, we only just decided this week. Things look like they've reached an equilibrium, and I think we can indeed have the symposium. We will do it on a smaller scale, but we will have enough people here to have the vibe. It will be an invitation-only, smaller event with no internationals. And to be honest, I think Munich should do the same thing. I think Munich can have a great show. I think people in Europe would welcome it. I just maybe can't participate this year, which is sad. I'm going to miss it, but I think they should go ahead. By the same logic, I think we can do it safely and have a good time here, and we will do it. We will go ahead with the symposium. So we'll announce details soon.
Well, I think one detail that I think you're okay with me sharing is the fact that this year's symposium, we're going to be doing it a little bit differently. Everybody knows that I've been filming your symposium and releasing the DVDs since 2010 when there wasn't even a symposium. But this year we're going to do something completely different, and what we're going to do is we're going to live stream the symposium. And so I just wanted to kind of call you out and give you a big thanks for that, because it's kind of in the direction and in the heart in which Mineral Talks Live was created, and sort of what BlueCap Productions is also doing in every week releasing new films for free to the mineral collecting community.
Yeah.
Right now you're giving something back, and I think that's such a critical thing to be doing in these times.
So yeah, thank you. That's how I look at it. Honestly, I need this too. It's going to be a long, hot, slow summer. I always look forward to this, frankly, more than shows. And I mean, I feel we can have it. It will be mostly a local thing. I hope people who've come in the past will come back in the future. But this year, it's just the reality. It will be mostly a local thing, mostly people driving in. And we'll have a little bit of fun here, but we will go to extra lengths. And for those watching, I talked with Brian last night about this. We can make this happen to get the talks broadcast, hopefully live, so that people around the world can join and see the information. And I'm really looking forward to doing this.
I am too. It's going to be completely different, but we have no option. We have to shift with the times, and I'm excited about this. And I think these are some good decisions that you're making, Rob.
Yeah. Thank you. Also, the truth is 75 days out is still a long way. Things may change, but we're planning conservatively and planning safely. And I think it's going to be, I think it's something that I have to do. I feel like, as you said, it's something I get to give back to the community that made me. But I really want to do that, and I really want to create this content. And we will broadcast it for free to anybody else.
Right on, right on. Well, hopefully there'll be some kind of event at your gallery there, maybe, as you said, much smaller in scale. And for anyone who hasn't been there yet and might end up going, Rob has one room towards the end of the tour, if you're going in, what would this be, a clockwise direction, that is pretty much just your personal China collection. Tell us about that collection, how it started, and what's the future of the collection.
Well, it didn't start as a China collection. So when I was 12 years old, I was trying to do what everybody tries to do. You try and get a little of everything, and you buy 100 minerals and you put them on your shelves, and you see, well, what does it look like? What am I gravitating to? Do I like color, size, geometry? And I pretty quickly focused on collecting calcites, because they were plentiful in the Midwest and I could afford to buy them. You could buy a $5 calcite. You could buy a $10 calcite. And so I collected calcites up through the time after I became a full-time dealer. And I still have most of my childhood collection. I keep saying I'm going to get around to selling it, and I never do. And some of them were Chinese. so I get to keep those anyway. And I guess sometime around 2003-ish, I just made the decision to collect Chinese minerals exclusively instead of calcite. And at the time, they were being ignored. They were poor stepchildren to other things. Chinese minerals were less expensive than the classics, like Sumeb, America, European classics. And I decided that I would collect big pieces that don't compete with a lot of my customers. Most people like miniatures to fist-sized minerals, especially at that time. And I decided I'd try and collect bigger specimens and build a collection and see where it went. So that was almost 20 years ago now, and I've never looked back. Then I started traveling to China, learning the language, and it's just grown into a monster. I sell most of what I bring back from China, but it is true that I keep things. And instead of keeping them secret, my idea is to turn that into a teaching collection. So I do share it. As you know, we did a book with the Min Record. We did an exhibit in Tucson. For those of you in the United States, we will have a grand exhibition in Santa Barbara. The Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History will open next May with the beauty of minerals shown through the China Mineral Collection. And by having this collection, it gives me the ability to use it as a teaching collection in China. And that lets me get into places that I couldn't get into otherwise, bring minerals out and educate the government and museums there, which benefits us all. So it's a growing collection.
So that's going to be Santa Barbara in May?
In May, next year, yeah. May through September.
Rob,
we have 4,000 square foot.
Fantastic. Santa Barbara is obviously, as most people know, in Southern California, and Southern California has some of the best diving in the world. You know that I'm a crazy scuba diver, and of all the people in the mineral world that I've gone scuba diving with, both of them are in that room that you're in right now. I know you're a crazy scuba diver also, so why don't you share with everybody what it is about scuba diving that you love?
So for those who've known me a long time, I'm supposed to have a career as a biologist. Mineral dealing is not a career. When I grew up, just to go back to this, I saw the mineral dealers. They lived on the road. They're traveling to shows. It was stressful. It was not what I wanted to do. The fact that I ended up a mineral dealer through this weird thing with the internet and what it became doesn't mean I don't love biology and animals, right? So along the way to becoming a biologist, I started scuba diving. I love it. It's the only time I de-stress, and actually the only time my phone is not on me.
Well, I have to disagree. We were on a trip to the Galapagos, and you had a satellite phone.
Yeah, but it wasn't underwater.
No, that's true. That's true. Okay, fair enough.
So underwater for the hour, it wasn't with me. Just to be clear. So, I love it. And it's the same kind of people. If you appreciate the beauty of nature, if it's critters, if it's minerals, if it's somewhat less beautiful fossils, I get it. But to me, it's what I see in the ocean and the reefs and the animals I see underground is the same. It's the same feeling I get when I look at a beautiful mineral. So scuba is my relaxed time. And for those who were listening and heard Brian's comments, yes, Brian actually went to the Galapagos with me. Can I share a story?
Oh, geez, I'm not sure. We're off script here.
I get a lot of diving in, but I'm nowhere near as experienced as Brian. I don't know if I have 1,000 dives. Brian has thousands, and actually used to be an instructor.
Dive master, but younger. Close enough. I pretended I was an instructor.
Before you had that beard thing. And so we go to Galapagos, where they should not let newbie divers go. And we're on this dive boat with this young girl from Thailand, was it?
Oh, yeah. And her father or boyfriend couldn't figure out what.
Brian saved her life. So there's two stories from that trip, among others. But one is Brian here saw her shooting up to the surface because she couldn't control her compression. And he kicked after her, and you risked getting the bends yourself to save her. And she would definitely have gotten sick. She would have gotten the bends. We were deep out in the ocean, no help near, and she just shot up like a rocket. So for everyone out there, Brian did, in my sight, save somebody's life, I think.
Thank you.
But the second experience I really remember from that trip was looking you in the eyes. We're underwater. We're 80, 90 feet down at Darwin's Arch
Right.
in the Galapagos, and is famous for these hammerheads that swim around. So Brian's all experienced. I figure I'm going to follow Brian, right? Brian knows what to do. It's the Galapagos. There's a lot of sharks, but I don't need to worry because Brian's around. So we get in the water at the head of this school that turned out to be the largest hammerhead shark school they've ever recorded. And our air's running out after 70 minutes underwater. And I look at Brian and I'm trying to make the signs, what do we do? And he looks at me and, he's making faces at me that make it clear that he has no idea what to do.
Family show.
It's then that I realized that I could read curse words, you saying them through your mask underwater. So finally we just looked at each other and we're like, what the hell? We gotta breathe. So I remember this was so amazing. We just went back to back, the two of us rotating up the water column, back to back, just looking at these hammerheads around us as they parted before us. It was crazy.
I think you remember that was the freakiest part for me. And I've gone diving outside of a cage with bull sharks, which are the most dangerous sharks in the world. And I knew hammerheads were safe. But as we're going back to back, literally the school's coming and parting like that. And I actually kind of tucked my knees up to my chest because I just felt exposed and vulnerable. And that was a crazy, wonderful experience.
I was petrified, yeah. But so for what it's worth, mineral collecting, going underground, I think it's probably the same sort of thrill. Maybe we get off on that.
I don't think I've ever heard it expressed in such a way, but you've articulated it in a way that I understand. I understand it so much better now because I think you're right on saying that divers and collectors, we're all fascinated by the beauty of nature, and very well put, very well put.
So if I can make a pitch for another event, everybody knows about Earth Day. Dallas is actually the home of Earth X, the biggest Earth Day in the world, the biggest Earth Day event, and it would normally be each April. So we're working really hard with the people who organize Earth X here in Dallas to get them to understand exactly that point, Brian. Everybody knows cuddly critters and fish and plants and beautiful scenery is a part of nature. You should respect and you should treasure. But it's hard to get minerals associated in that category. So we're really trying to bring the beauty of minerals through sharing exhibits and promotional material, some of which you've made with Earth Day, with the Earth Day event here in Dallas, because I think more people who appreciate other facets of nature would really appreciate minerals if they were exposed to them the way that we are.
Rob, that's incredible that you should mention that because there is a dive here in Honolulu that I do called Eva Pinnacles. And when you drop down, there's some anemones that are growing on the bottom of this ledge that every time I look at them, I swear to God, they look just like pyromorphites. And so next time I go diving, I'm going to take a photograph of that and I'm going to send it to you and we could continue this talk. But I love the idea, so I'm on board with this.
Good. What else?
Cool. Well, doing a link from scuba diving, obviously a lot of education. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to save that young Thai girl if I hadn't been trained as a rescue diver and as a dive master. And so education in minerals is a very important thing to you also. So why don't you share with us kind of your thoughts when it comes to education in the mineral collecting world?
Okay. I might seem a little old when I make my comments, but I think... I mean, I grew up with books. I grew up with physical books that you actually hold in your hand. And having a library of mineral books really, it changed my life. So there's a particular book, Gem and Crystal Treasures by Peter Bancroft.
Love it, Uncle Pete.
I do believe it was probably ghostwritten by Brian's father, Ed Swoboda, or at least his spirit was in it.
Maybe just one chapter, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a book that literally changed my life. When you get to see minerals presented in the context of history, of human stories, it elevates them. I think elevates all minerals to a level of art that people outside our world don't appreciate. So what I have tried to do the last 20 years is try and use that feeling that book gave me as my guideline. And I use my China collection as a teaching collection. I make videos and literature I publish in Chinese. Here, we promote through the symposium and through the website this idea that minerals are linked to context, to history, to people, to human stories. And I think that will help draw people in to this field that we all love so much. So, the symposium is just a part of that in the big picture. The whole internet medium, shows like you're doing, help get these stories out. But my worry is that a lot of that information is, again, it's on books or it's on websites, like my old website that I started in 1994. And I worry that a lot of people who are new don't go to those books and don't go to the websites that archive so much of that information anymore. And I saw a really amazing graphic in the Young Mineral Collectors display at Tucson. Maybe you can get that from some of their members. And they did a survey of the young mineral collectors. And it showed that, maybe I'm remembering this right, 12% out of the 1,000 reliably and routinely go to websites. Other people or most people get their information off social media. And so my worry is that social media is a much more limited subset of the world of minerals that I had the privilege to grow up in. And it's a much more limited subset of information. So how do we encourage people out there to then come deeper into our world, right? With projects like what you're doing, with videos from the symposium, we have to do what we can.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think we need more funding for media companies to make films about the mineral collecting world, going on site and showing really the beauty and the human side of the story. So if you know any media companies out there, fund them, because they need the funding and they're willing to do the work. That's a shameless plug for BlueCap Productions.
For BlueCap, yep.
Hey, Rob, we're coming down
it's needed. What you do is needed.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. We're coming down towards the end of the interview, and there's one question I like to ask all my guests. In your opinion, what are some of the most important qualities that make a great mineral specimen?
I'm glad you didn't ask me what makes a great mineral dealer, because I have no idea. A great mineral specimen. So, you see these analyses where people break it down, right? Here's the 10 factors.
Right.
And the 12 factors. And if you look in the Houston Museum book that Joel Barch and Wendell Wilson wrote, it's really well put out there. If you look in the Icons book by Wayne Thompson, here's these factors: beauty, aesthetics, history, provenance. But honestly, that's not how I look at it. I can't remember who first told me this. It might have been an article in the Mineralogical Record by Wendell Wilson that a lot of collectors, myself included, just look at something and you get a gestalt, all at once. It's hard to break it down into individual factors, that what you love just comes across as this sort of synergistic whole. And it's an instant impression that you love this thing, and it gives you goosebumps, right?
So it's hard to quantify. It's an overall feeling.
Yeah. That's how I look at it. But then to determine the value or the context, I would say then I would break it down into criteria, and I just refer people to the Houston Museum book or the Icons book for that list.
Interesting. So it's kind of for you, it's a combination of two, where aesthetically and just how it hits you just off the bat is one of your main criteria, but then when you go towards the value / price of it, then you start quantifying it a little bit more so that you can have some kind of point of reference.
Yeah, okay. Case in point. So I'm at a show in rural China, and I see this piece. I call it the tree. I'm a Lord of the Rings fan. And for anyone
really,
who's watched Lord of the Rings,
couldn't tell by the name of your company,
Yes. So there's the silver tree in the city of Gondor. But anyway, aside from that, there's this beautiful.
You pronounced it wrong. It's Gondor.
Yes. No comment on Brian's nerdism. So the piece is about this big, and it's just an aragonite. It should, it's like the main ingredient in concrete, right? It should be worthless, but it's so beautiful, and it looked like a tree to me. And I asked the price in Chinese, and the guy told me a price, and I just said, okay, I'll buy it. And the person I was with just sort of slapped me on the shoulder and was like, what the hell are you doing? You can't just buy it. And that's a ridiculous price for an aragonite. Nobody in China would pay that. And all I could say, it's like I had no logic. All I could say is, but look at it.
Yeah.
It's like, I want it.
Right.
And it wasn't even a lot of money. It was just for what it was. In my opinion, it's just, sometimes you just feel that way about a mineral all at once. But now as a dealer, if I have to sell them, I need to add the informed context.
Right. You got to be on the business side. So at the heart, you are a collector, but
I think so.
you also have to be a dealer. So you have to play both sides. So it makes a little bit more sense why you have those kind of two value systems in evaluating any kind of mineral.
Yeah, I still consider myself a collector.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think I sold my soul when I became a mineral dealer, and to that end, I mean, I feel very good that I can share my collection. If people come here, they see it. If you look online, we'll soon have a revised China website that will show some of them too. You know, I like sharing my collection as a collector, and I think what I would say to other people out there who are collectors is this: who cares what other people think? To some degree, I have people walk into my collection room, and some very high level collectors will say, why do you collect this stuff? Why don't you just collect that stuff?
Right.
But you know, it's my collection. I like what I like, and it goes together in a way that I find rewarding. So sometimes that's the only right answer, Brian, right? Not the criteria.
Well, no, that's a very important point that you make, especially to new collectors. It doesn't matter what other people think. If it's something that you like, then it's your collection. Do what you will. Buy what you want, what makes you feel happy, but just be cautious of price gouging.
Well, and I've seen people who are, I don't know what the term for it is, let's say price sensitive. They'll say, well, I'm a sophisticated collector. If it's not $1,000 or if it's not $10,000, it's not worthy of my collection. I don't want to see it. Maybe because I started small, you know, with $1 rocks. I've never had that idea. I am perfectly happy to have a mineral that I paid $500 for, that I love, next to a $50,000 piece on a shelf. I think that's the way to collect. And we're lucky because in our field we can do that. There are so many beautiful minerals that just aren't as expensive as others. And so my collection is built on, you know, what I like, not based on what they cost.
Well, I think that's a great point because there are a lot of great stories that I've heard over the years of interviewing people where it seemed like a nothing mineral, but once they bought it and trimmed it and cleaned it, then all of a sudden it became a completely different beast. And so if you're setting a minimum threshold in terms of value of specimens in your collection, it might not be the best strategy because you miss out on those little gems that are very hard to find, but they are out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, honestly, to tie back now to your original question, you know, how do I look at minerals? It's more, why do I collect? That's part of the thrill of it. When I came in as a kid, I could collect something good at any level. Whoever's watching this at whatever stage of collecting, at any level of what you can spend, you can actually get something good in our world, something that's worthy. And sometimes you just can't do that in other fields of art. It's what's beautiful about minerals.
Absolutely. Rob, final question of the interview. Where is the mineral world going, in your opinion?
Well, you know, I would like to say that I have a somewhat rational assessment of the mineral world, but I am, let's just start, I'm biased because I've been in this since I was a kid and I love it. But that being said, all I have seen is growth for 35, 36 years. All I've seen is growth through 9/11, after the crash of '08, and after now. There will be a plateau. I think things will level out for a year or two, and then it's going to go right back up and continue the upslope that I've seen for decades. We have organic growth, Brian. There's new people coming in. Mm-hmm. The internet has killed some collectibles. I mean, you know that. I used to collect comic books as a kid, and the value's actually gone down on most of them. Baseball cards. The internet has killed collectibles that I regard as mass-produced. But for us, for our field, it is bringing in new people. You who are watching this, anybody who participates in things like this, people are learning more, seeing more, and you have a broader context of this hobby than anyone who's ever been able to come into it because of what's available on the internet. So I think finally we're at a stage where there's so much information out there, Brian, so much outreach, that we're just going to keep getting new organic growth of people who appreciate what we do. And I think coming out of this bad period, you know, where minerals are still selling, by the way, I think we're just going to see a lot of people who came in during this time and over the next 10 years grow into members of the community.
I love it, Rob. I couldn't agree with you more, and I think it's a very strong message of hope and positivity that you're delivering in this time where it feels like there might be a lot of despair. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers appreciate that and, are looking forward to the growth as you and I are looking forward to it.
I mean, as a dealer, I'm saying that with one hat, but I guess I'm saying this more with my collector hat on. I mean, this is what I love. This is what my life is. And I want to see it grow for all our sakes. And it is. It's just a simple fact. It's still growing even now. So in a year or two, I think we'll see a pretty good rebound. And I hope that the shows return, recover, and new people go to them.
Fantastic. We're all hoping the same. Rob, as predicted, we've gone over on our time, so we're going to go into the Q&A session now, and we've got Raquel and Eloise online, and I believe some people have been sending, I think we've got a few questions there in the Q&A section. So Raquel and Eloise are going to read off some questions for us to answer, probably more you than me, and so with that, I'm going to turn it over to the lovely ladies.
Hi, thank you. Rob, that was incredible. I have so many questions, but I cannot do my own Q&A. So I'm going to go. I think the crowd is really looking forward to see more of the minerals that you show. So they want to take a look again at the Goshenite, if you can tell us about it a little bit more, and especially the turquoise. So if you can show us those two. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Raquel. I can't see anything. I feel like I'm talking to a green screen and some cartoon movie. So I'm just holding this up, looking at a camera. Is that working?
Yeah.
It is working. If you want to put it a little closer.
So, I love how it has this sharp phantom inside. And, it's just a beautiful example of nature's perfection, right? So Brian, this is back to our talk about scuba diving. I mean, we have people we dive with who look at fish the same way.
Absolutely.
I'm not quite there on the fish, but, I can get it.
Oh, the shark's a fish.
Just beautiful, yes. Yeah, so there's your Goshenite, which for those watching, it's just a colorless variety of beryl, like aquamarine or emerald, but without the components that add the color. So, God, I think within the next month or two, we'll post these on our website. And you said the turquoise?
Yes, I just want to quickly chip in. The type locality is here in Massachusetts, in Goshen.
Oh, I never realized that.
Wow, I didn't realize that either. That's cool.
Well, what's neat, and morganite is also from the United States, from San Diego.
Raquel, which turquoise do you want Rob to show? He had a couple different ones there.
I think it's the one after appetite. There you go.
The tooth.
That
tooth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is unusual, and you've seen these from Mexico in little size. What's interesting is by me showing you these, I'm not showing you things that are new to the earth. These are things that were mined in China. They just hadn't reached our culture of appreciating these as mineral specimens. These are crushed up. They are literally destroyed. Until I got direct access to this mining region, they literally just crush this up and mix it with plastic and powder and sell it by the kilo. And so preserving these specimens, I had to teach them what we want and just pay more than they could get by crushing them.
So
but yeah, that's an interesting thing.
Another question from Deborah is, how does that turquoise in China differ from the specimens in the US?
Unfortunately, I'm not a turquoise expert. I can give you the location of the turquoise mines, or maybe Google Hubei province turquoise, and maybe it'll tell you something online. I just don't know enough about turquoise to answer that. I'm sorry.
Rob, could you show us the other turquoise, the branch turquoise?
Yeah. So this is with the soft concretion material inside, sandblasted out, but this is natural shape. This is before polishing. Is that on the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, and so again, to them, a few of these are saved as traditional view stones for use in the home as decor, but really most of this would be crushed up and ground up. So when I was able to see pieces like this it's really complete all around, that are preserved, I'm now buying them and bringing them out as specimens. So interesting. And Brian, like you said, 3,500 years of history there.
That's fantastic.
And another question from Thomas, which you might kind of answer, but he's more specific. If you were just about to become a mineral dealer, what would you focus on as a top priority? What do you see most crucial to succeed as a mineral dealer in the long run?
Ooh, but I have to pick one. I can't pick one thing. I mean, honestly, you have to, I hope this sounds right. You have to acquire the knowledge to honestly represent what you're selling. I think the same as any art field. And to get that knowledge, you need to put in your 10,000 hours of research, go to museums, look at the exhibits in person, go to our books, go to the videos like this. But honestly, look at minerals in person. I think that's the single most important qualification to be in this game. I put in my 10,000 hours as a child before I read Malcolm Gladwell's book about trying to put in 10,000 hours to be good at anything.
Right.
You just have to look at as much as you can in person and soak it up.
And, you know, kind of to add on to that, one of the best things that anyone can do is visit the different mineral museums around the world. Raquel is the curator of the museum at Harvard University, which has an outstanding collection. And the museums love to have people come in, and there's nothing like seeing pieces live on display. So mineral museums, mineral shows, internet, books, you just got to be a sponge. Oh, and What's Hot in Tucson programs.
Oh, and Eloise, we like your museum too.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Rob.
Another question, Rob. Could you give us a quick statement about silver mineral collecting? Somehow these minerals always fetch the highest prices among sulfides. That question.
Silver minerals?
From Albert Caviar. Yes.
Well, okay. Let me try and rephrase the question. So first of all, I would say that even I am sometimes shocked at the prices fetched by what some people would call small, ugly things, whether they have silver or not. But yeah, in general, sulfides, silver sulfides and other species that are black or crystalline without glittery gemstone value can have really high value because they're amazing. So we actually had a symposium talk on this from 2015. I think we can provide through Brian and BlueCap that talks about why crystallized silver minerals are so rare on Earth, and crystallized gold too, for that matter. So you have this glamour of it being a native element, but they're just rare in nature, and collectors want what is rare, right? And then when they transcend rarity and they're actually also beautiful, of course they'll fetch a high price. But the same is true with any rarity.
Thank you.
Does that answer that?
I think so. I think we might be okay, unless you want to chip in another book recommendation, which was another question.
Sure. And people are, maybe if you're looking for something online, again, Bancroft's Gem and Crystal Treasures, the Houston Museum book on mineral collecting. There's a great book from the Sorbonne by Jean-Claude Bouliard that's probably available in Europe. But go to the Mineralogical Record website. There's a wealth of data. Go to Rocks and Minerals website. Subscribe to both magazines. And I would say people just read as much as you can.
Thank you.
Now, Rob, I know I promised you no secret agendas and no surprise questions, but I somewhat fibbed with you. While we've been talking, the ladies have put out a poll to all the viewers, and we've got 10 rather random questions, and we've asked everybody to answer it according to how they feel, and we're going to see how close it aligns with your answers. So, in no particular order, we're gonna fire through these. Rapid fire answers, okay? You're not allowed to think, you just respond, okay? Are you ready?
No, but okay.
Okay. Marvel or DC?
Marvel, of course.
Marvel. Desert or ocean?
Ocean, of course.
Suit or t-shirt?
I'm sorry?
Suit or t-shirt?
Definitely t-shirt.
Evening or morning?
Evening.
Evening. Tea or coffee?
Ooh, that's difficult. I like tea now.
Okay, good.
I may have been contaminated I'm not any longer a Starbucks fan.
Good
Sorry.
for you. Good for you.
Yeah,
Singing
tea.
or dancing? Singing or dancing?
Neither.
You got to choose one. Come on, singing or
我不可以
dancing?
唱歌，我不可以跳舞。
Okay, I'm going to put
Monica's
singing
laughing.
because we know that you love to sing your Chinese ballads in
No,
odd
that was a
restaurants.
lie that one of you put in the email.
You know, it's really funny because you sing Chinese ballads, and I know that your son Logan sings Russian ballads. What the hell is going on in the Levinsky house there?
Okay, I do not sing. I mutter. And yes, my son has a head for music, and his current favorite is the Soviet national anthem. I don't know why, and he doesn't tell us, but he can sing it to you.
Weirdness is going on there. Okay, let's move on. What's it called? A stick shift or manual?
Automatic? I don't know. I don't know that stuff.
Stick shift or
I'm gonna
manual?
abstain.
That's like automatic is like choice 3. That's not even there.
I don't know. I drive what Americans drive.
Okay.
That thing.
Stick shift or manual? I'm gonna go stick shift for you. Flying or diving? I think I know the answer to that.
Diving.
Surf or turf? Food preference.
Fish are generally healthier.
Okay, so
I would
surf.
say fish.
Beer or wine?
Wine.
Wine. Okay,
Not Baijiu.
that's the 10. What we're going to do
real
is I'm
wine.
going to read back your answers, and either Raquel or Eloise, I'm not sure which one, they're going to tell us what the viewers voted. And if we get a sufficient number, we're going to give a gift to all of the viewers. So it looks like Eloise came online. So Eloise, Marvel or
Hello,
DC?
yes. So it looks like a lot of people agreed with Rob. 70% of Marvel people out there.
Marvel, right on. Desert or ocean?
I have actually most ocean, 65%.
Fantastic.
I agree with them. I'm one of them.
Suit or t-shirt?
T-shirt, like Rob.
T-shirt. Evening.
Hey, mineral dealers don't have to wear suits. I'm sorry. There's no rule book.
That's one of the best parts of this
Yes.
hobby. Evening or morning?
Well, you know, that was kind of a tight. I have 54% of evening people.
Oh, we've got the late nighters. Tea or coffee?
Same thing, tight, but coffee won.
Coffee one. Okay. Singing or dancing?
So, you know, I told you about the 50% chance.
Neither.
It happened.
Whoa!
It's a 50-50, yes.
It's split down the center. Does anyone have a coin? Flip a coin?
Raquel, what's your favorite? I
I
think
think
it's
you removed the question.
Okay, I didn't vote, so I will go for dancing.
Dancing.
Yeah, me too, me too.
Okay, all right. So we're dancing.
But you guys are European.
Yeah, but hey,
We're normal.
what? There are things that we can learn. Stick shift or manual? What did most people say?
manual.
Manual. Interesting. Flying or diving?
So that didn't happen because we had mineral or gemstone instead in
Oh,
the
well,
Q&A.
we know what
Rob,
everyone's going to
will
choose
you
on
go,
that. Then.
Mineral or gemstone?
Well, let's see. Would I go for the beauty of nature or the bastard stepchild of people who took something beautiful and cut it into little pieces? I don't know. Tough choice.
Yeah. People exactly think like we have mineral lover definitely on this show tonight.
There's no surprise there. No surprise at all. Okay, food preference, surf or turf?
We have surf.
We have surf.
There you go.
And beer or
Sustainable.
wine?
Wine. Yes.
Wine! Wow! Hey!
That's a lot. Oh my god. That's a lot.
That is 7 out of 10 questions that the public overwhelmingly agrees with Rob. So
Wait, and I abstained. No, I abstained from one. It's 7 out of 9. So you're saying I'm statistically normal.
you're
Thank you.
statistically
I
normal.
appreciate
You're
that.
statistically in the majority. Okay.
Of the mineral
take that.
community, of the mineral community, you know, because definitely you have lover there. It's definitely not the gem people that are voting here. So
Well,
you know,
it'll be interesting. We'll ask that question when we interview one of our gem people that we have on the schedule. So, Raquel or Eloise, if you could switch on my camera for a second. This is one of the prizes that we're going to
do
give
that.
to everybody.
yes, sorry about that. I was so-
Hey, right there, that URL, https:// Mineralfilms.com, WHIT 2020, Levinsky. If you go to that right now, you will get a chance to see Rob Levinsky's interview with Bob Jones from What's Hot in Tucson 2020, which has not yet been released. This is a rough cut of it, so there are no on-screen labels, but you guys will be able to see this live. You'll be the first ones that have seen this. So.
And Monica put it on the chat. Monica put it on the chat. So.
Fantastic, great. So I think that's going to be it. Rob, want to thank you so much for coming online and sitting down with us, or standing up with us, as the case may be, and spending, we're a little bit over an hour here. So I did fib a little bit when I said we were going to go over, but hey, really enjoyed it. From what I'm seeing on the chat, everybody really loved it. Thank you so much, Rob. Really appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you to everybody who listened. Thank you, Brian, Raquel, Eloise. It's good to hear your voice. It's much nicer than Brian's. And hopefully I'll see you again at Tucson.
And they are a lot spicier than I am too. And they've got foliage in the background, which is lovely. So Rob, thanks again.
That's because they thought.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay. I will.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you all for joining. We will leave this chat room on for a bit. We'll turn the camera and the microphone